Welcome back to the channel, everybody. So after a long time, I finally got my lathe wired up. So this is a three-phase 208 volt lathe, motor on this lathe, and I have 240 volt single phase in the shop. So I ran SO cable on the ceiling down to a static, let me zoom in a little bit hopefully, phase-o-matic heavy duty static phase converter. I can't get that thing out of the way. Anyways, so this is a 300 HD model. $60 hertz, maximum 3 horsepower, which this is at the top of that limit, and full load amps 9.6, runs 230 volt 3-phase motors on 238 volt single phase power. So actually this was originally a 480 volt motor, and you have multiple options on there that's listed. I think it was 208, 277, 480. Some electrical guys are going to know more about this than me, but we had to make it less than the incoming voltage. So we went down to the lowest one, which was 208, and then we have the 230, 240, whatever it is coming in. And you lose about, they say this runs at about 65% power. So these things are $277 online right now, probably plus taxes, probably plus shipping. I got this for 125 bucks from a guy that bought it for another use and wasn't happy with it because of that reduction in power. And they said you have to reduce your pulley size to make up for that. But on a lathe, you have all your ability to reduce pulley sizes, so you don't need to do that. So right now, I'm running at 132 RPM. So watch, let me turn it on for that. So you can, it's buzzing a little bit right now. The light is off. I'm gonna turn on the lathe. So it wasn't bad that time, clicked on, lathe's running good now. So what this is gonna do, I think, the electronics on this, you've only got 2 wires coming in, and I think what's happening is it's pulsing one of the power wires back and forth between the third leg of the 3-phase, making a false leg, we'll call it. So it runs this no problem. So all of this I'm pretty happy with. So let's go to, let me see if I can. Okay, so now we're at 179. Should run that no problem. So it struggles a little bit. It chatters because it's got to get this thing started. And I don't know how much load this thing can take before. So, oh, that was the other thing. So I blew a fuse, which my fuses are right here. 20 amp fuses. And I went and got a 30 amp fuse. I went and got a spare. And I blew the third one of these guys. So I don't know what it takes, but I've got the breaker on the shop. This may or may not have an overload. I've got the motor starter. And then I had to wire up the pump separately. So before you had to turn this on, which kicked on the coolant pump, and this wouldn't turn on unless this was on. So we separated those out. So, all right, we are 179, right? 179 RPM. No problem. Runs perfect. Let's see if we turn on the, let's see. All right, carriage is engaged. I'm going to try to put some load Yeah. So, doesn't really care about that too much. So the other thing is if you try to originally start this without a load on it, it'll chatter like crazy. This thing needs a load to get started. I don't know how else to explain that, but let's go up to, let's see if it'll do 491 RPM. That'll give me all this gear set right here. Oh yeah. Okay. Happy with that. Hauling ass. I'm not going to go to the next set. So that's hauling ass. That's more lathe than I need. I got it to do these okay. I would say these two, it trips the breaker. These two, it trips the breaker after a period of time. So I'm not going to use any of this RPM here. I don't have that ability anymore. If you change the pulley on the motor, you're effectively just reducing all of these, and you're not going to... I don't know if I have an accurate RPM right now. I don't have a way to test RPM, but I'm going to have to check to see if that 65% power affects the RPM. I don't think that it does. Maybe not the way you would think it would, but if we change the pulley, all these RPMs are going to be different, and then, yeah. So, other than that... That is a really good solution to get a lathe started. So if you had like a motor with just one drive on it, it would be kind of interesting. You'd have to change some things around. This is pretty good for a lathe. It chatters a little bit. It makes some clicking sounds and stuff like that. But you can get a VFD, right? Variable frequency drive. Mount it somewhere accessible. And wherever that may be, up here, I guess. And then that'll give you the start function, stop function, and then technically that would be able to, you'd be able to turn up and down the RPM. I'm sure all kinds of people use VFDs. And then that would give you a stop function too. So let's see, I don't know, am I still on the high RPM? So I stop, and it takes a minute to slow down. A VFD, you can make that stop real quick. But you can get cheap Chinese VFDs for a couple $100. Let's say this is $350. You can get you're starting to get into usable VFDs. But for $1,000 you can get into one. But then again, it's just, I mean, $1,000... I would have rather spent another $1,000 on the lathe. So I went and picked this lathe up for $2,000. No idea whether that's a good deal or not. It seems to be decent, but used. Everything seems to be pretty tight. I don't have the tool holder to it, and this was a different chuck that I've got in my tool set. So I need to get a center and a few things for this. So tool up for it. I got all these tool holders, and that's for my brake lathe. And another little Jacobs chuck that it came with. 2 boring bars. So good enough for what I want to use it for. I mean, we don't really do that much here, but it's the start of something. Oh, and I got a 4-jaw with it somewhere down there. So there's a 4-jaw down there. I don't know how to change those quite yet, but I think it just roll that nut off and this pops off, right? I don't think there's too much to that. So I just got to get used to seeing if this thing is still acceptable to use. Leblonde Regal. Don't know too much about it, but honestly, I think the price was right. Coolant pump, that still works-ish. It's not hooked up right now, so it just makes a mess. Oh, there's that type of stuff freaks out the phase converter. Let me see if I can So let's see if it'll shut. For whatever reason, certain stuff freaks out this phase converter. It wants that pump by itself is not enough of a load to turn this thing on and off properly. And I think what that sound is this thing mechanically alternating two lines in there. But it's good enough. Works for me. So, and yeah, this has a, oddly enough, that still works. This has, I believe this is 120 volt. I'm not sure on that, but there's a pump back over here. You're not going to be able to see it. And then this, this somehow is a separate motor as well. The carriage is its own motor as well, which is kind of interesting. I don't necessarily know how that works, but those are different voltages, and it's that 120 volt freaks this thing out. But still works. It's going to have some little things I got to get used to. I don't know if that's oil or coolant or what's in there. Probably oil, I guess. So got to take care of it a little bit, or give it some maintenance. And then I used it a little bit, but the bits were dull and I didn't have the proper tool holders, so I'll get that stuff. But I just wanted to show the static phase converter, Phase-O-Matic. That's one option. They have rotary phase converters, but until I can test some VFDs and stuff on my own stuff, I've used them at work, but or at my old jobs. So that's it. Time to build some stuff. Anyways, thanks for watching. I got some other reviews to do on some stuff here. Same thing for a mill I got to get set up one of these days, and see if I can get that all set up where I can actually replace some of these jobs that I need done. And I go out and try to get stuff done locally, and it's just freaking brutal with trying to work with machine shops in my town there. I had this piece done somewhere right here. We'll call it this one. I had just the back side of that machine. You can see their mill go up and down. It took me $375 to take off 20 thousandths. I don't know if I would have been able to do that in the lathe, but probably. Would have been a little sketchy. Maybe not as good as a mill or a surface grinder. But yeah, definitely need to start spending my own money on getting my own tools, because these machine shops are murdering me. Anyways, thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next video.